There are moments in life when something larger than ourselves takes hold of us. It may come as a sudden meeting, a glance that lingers, or a conversation that feels as if it has been spoken countless times before. These encounters carry with them a sense of destiny, not the destiny of fairy tales, but the destiny of deep forces that pull us together, like unseen magnets across the expanse of time and space. When two energies collide in such a way, they create a bond that resists decay, a connection that neither time nor distance can extinguish. Let us explore what it truly means when two energies collide, and why their impact reverberates beyond separation, silence, or distance. When two energies meet, there is a sense that something greater than ordinary chance has unfolded. It is as though a hidden hand within the fabric of existence arranges the moment, placing two lives upon a path that converges at precisely the right time. This is not the coincidence of simple randomness, but the manifestation of deeper currents moving beneath the surface of daily life. To encounter another in such a way is to step into a stream of meaning, where the ordinary boundaries of time and circumstance fall away, leaving only the raw immediacy of recognition. You know this feeling when it happens. It is the sudden awareness that something has shifted, that you are not walking away from this moment the same as you entered it. Such meetings cannot be summoned by force, nor designed through calculation. They arrive in the way rivers eventually merge, after long journeys through winding valleys and distant plains, coming together to form a stronger current. Many times these encounters arrive when least expected, at the bus stop, in a fleeting conversation at work, or through the simple exchange of a glance that carries more weight than words. You may have walked past thousands of faces in your life, but then, one day, a single face holds the power to alter the direction of your soul. It is not the length of time you share with that person that defines the meeting, but the depth of what is awakened within you. Consider the story of a man who once sat in a crowded conference room, listening to speaker after speaker, his mind drifting in distraction. Then, during a brief discussion over coffee, he met someone who said only a few words, but those words carried such clarity, such resonance, that they ignited a fire in him he had long forgotten. They did not spend weeks together, nor did they exchange constant communication afterward, yet that single conversation altered the course of his career and infused his life with new meaning. What happened there was not a casual meeting, it was the collision of energies. His own dormant potential was awakened by the presence of another, and the flame that was lit within him continued to burn long after the moment had passed. Many of us underestimate the magnitude of such encounters. We often measure relationships by how long they last, how often we speak, or how closely lives intertwine. Yet the true weight of an encounter cannot be weighed on these scales. A friendship of decades can remain shallow, while a meeting of minutes can penetrate to the core of one's being. The transformative nature of such collisions is not measured by quantity, but by quality, not by the calendar, but by the soul. These moments often carry an air of inevitability, as if they were meant to occur all along. Perhaps you met someone who introduced you to a new perspective, and later, upon reflection, you realized that every step of your life up until then prepared you for that exchange. The timing could not have been sooner nor later. It arrived at the exact moment you were ready to receive it. When two energies collide, it is as though the world conspires to open a door, revealing a path you could not see before. There is something profoundly humbling in this realization, for it reminds us that life is more than the sum of our plans and efforts. We may strive to control outcomes, to design our destinies with precision, Yet these transformative collisions emerge unannounced, bearing more impact than anything we could have orchestrated ourselves. They remind us that beneath the visible surface of life there are unseen currents weaving our stories together, guiding us toward the meetings that shape our becoming. In these encounters, we often discover reflections of ourselves. A stranger may speak words that echo a truth you have long carried but could never articulate. Their presence may stir emotions you thought were buried, or awaken a longing you had silenced. This is why such meetings feel powerful, because they bring to light parts of our own soul that were waiting to be seen. The energy exchanged is not merely between two people. It is the meeting of inner worlds, the recognition of something shared, something timeless. Think of those friendships that began almost accidentally. A chance remark during a casual conversation may blossom into a lifelong connection. At first glance, it may seem ordinary, but when you reflect, you realize that this person entered your life at a moment when you needed precisely what they had to offer: encouragement, challenge, understanding, or even silence. There is a peculiar wisdom in the way these collisions occur, aligning with the inner needs of our journey. Even fleeting encounters can leave imprints that last a lifetime. A teacher who believed in you when no one else did, a stranger who showed kindness on a day when you felt invisible, or a colleague whose insight sparked an idea that changed the direction of your work. These are not small events, though they may appear so on the surface. They are points of collision, moments when two streams of energy cross paths, altering the course of each other. When we look back upon our lives, it is often these rare collisions that stand out, glowing against the backdrop of countless ordinary days. They remind us that we are not alone in our journey, that there are forces guiding us toward those who will awaken, challenge, or heal us in ways we cannot predict. And though these meetings cannot be forced, we can prepare ourselves to recognize them. By living with openness, by listening deeply, and by allowing ourselves to be present, we become sensitive to the quiet stirrings of destiny when it brushes against our lives. The truth is, not every encounter is meant to be permanent. Some are brief, others enduring, but both can be equally transformative. What matters is not whether they stay, but what they awaken within us. The person who enters your life for a moment and then disappears may have given you a gift far greater than years of companionship could provide. Their energy may have shifted you onto a path you were meant to walk, and though they are gone, their impact remains woven into the fabric of your being. This is the mystery of collisions. They transcend the categories by which we normally judge relationships. They cannot be measured by frequency, longevity, or proximity. They belong to the realm of the soul, where time is irrelevant and the depth of impact is the only true measure. Such meetings remind us that life is not simply about endurance or duration, but about transformation, about the sparks that light within us when another soul touches ours in a way that leaves us forever changed. There are connections in life that laugh at the idea of distance. We live in a world ruled by borders, clocks, and maps, and yet there are bonds that make those boundaries feel like illusions. You may be thousands of miles away from someone, separated by mountains, oceans, and time zones, yet when their heart trembles, yours does too. It is as though an invisible thread stretches across the earth, binding two souls in a communion that geography cannot sever. What this reveals to us is that the deepest form of connection is not physical at all. It is energetic, psychic, existing in that mysterious dimension where time and space lose their dominion. You may have experienced this yourself without knowing how to explain it. Perhaps you thought of someone intensely, only to receive a message from them moments later. Perhaps in the silence of the night you suddenly felt a wave of warmth or sorrow, and later discovered that the one you love was passing through that very emotion at the same time. These are not coincidences in the shallow sense. They are glimpses of a truth that the rational mind often struggles to accept, that the psyche is not confined to the body, that the soul stretches far beyond the walls of our physical form, reaching and touching others in ways that science is only beginning to uncover. A mother feels her child's distress even when the child is on the other side of the world. This is not sentimentality, but a reality witnessed countless times across cultures and centuries. How many stories have we heard of a parent waking in the night, inexplicably restless, only to learn later that something significant happened to their child at that very moment? The bond between them is not mediated by distance. It is carried in a field of energy that requires no words, no proximity, no logical bridge. It simply is, and it is not only mothers and children. Lovers, friends, even those whose lives intersected briefly yet profoundly, can feel each other across vast stretches of land and sea. The military veteran recalls that during war he thought often of his wife and somehow felt her prayers sustaining him, though he had not received a letter in months. A widowed woman speaks of sensing her late husband's presence, not as a ghostly figure, but as a warmth in the air, a knowing that she was not alone. These testimonies remind us that bonds of energy operate on a level deeper than the material, a realm the ancient world honored, but our modern culture often forgets. Science has taken hesitant steps into this mystery, studying mirror neurons, empathic resonance, and quantum entanglement. We are told that particles, once connected, can continue to influence each other even when separated by great distances. Though the language is different, the principle is familiar. What has truly bonded does not easily break. Yet for all the data and theories, it is our lived experience that speaks most convincingly. You do not need an academic paper to tell you that when you are deeply connected to someone, you feel them. You carry them in your psyche, and they carry you. What is striking is how ordinary these extraordinary experiences can feel. A friend suddenly crosses your mind, and you discover later that they needed you in that very moment. A beloved relative you haven't spoken to in years appears in your dreams, and within days you receive news about them. We brush these events aside as odd coincidences, but they are more than curiosities. They are reminders of the profound unity of the human spirit, a unity that refuses to be confined by the limits of geography. When two energies are deeply intertwined, here and there blur until they lose their meaning. The voice on the phone may sound like it is carried across cables and satellites, but the resonance you feel does not travel through wires. It is immediate, direct, as though the other person were sitting across from you. Letters, messages, or digital screens do not create the bond. They merely remind us of it. The real connection lies in the invisible field where words are secondary to the silent recognition that you are linked, regardless of circumstance. It is not surprising that ancient cultures spoke of the cord of spirit, or the red thread of fate. They recognized something we often ignore in our rational age, that we are not islands adrift in isolation, but parts of a larger web of energy, constantly touching, sensing, influencing one another. This is why distance so often fails to diminish love. Even when years and miles intervene, when two people are bound by genuine energy, they carry each other in ways they cannot consciously control. To experience this is both a gift and a responsibility. It is a gift because it reassures us that we are never truly alone, that those we love are closer than we think. It is a responsibility because the energy we radiate does not stay confined within us. It reaches those to whom we are bound. To harbor bitterness, resentment, or despair is to send ripples through the bond. To cultivate love, hope, and compassion is to nourish the one who is connected to us, even across the seas. This is why some people say they felt healed or strengthened simply by knowing that another believed in them, even from afar. Think of two tuning forks. Strike one, and the other begins to vibrate though untouched. Human connection works in much the same way. When your soul resonates with another, distance becomes irrelevant. Their joy reaches you, their sorrow moves you, and their presence remains alive even in their absence. This is not a matter of imagination. It is the natural law of energy in communion. To acknowledge this truth is to live with greater reverence. It reminds us that our connections are not fragile threads that distance can easily cut, but living forces sustained by the depth of our inner world. It reminds us to honor the invisible, to listen for the stirrings of the psyche that whisper of another's presence. It calls us to trust that what is real between souls does not fade when miles intervene. In the end, the geography that separates bodies cannot separate energies. Plains and oceans may measure distance, but in the unseen field of connection, proximity is not measured by miles but by resonance. When two energies are truly bound, the pulse of one is felt by the other, regardless of how far apart they may appear to be. And perhaps this is the most profound reassurance, that love in its truest form requires no map to find its way. We are taught from a young age that time is the great dissolver, that it erases wounds, blurs memories, and gradually wears away all that once seemed permanent. Time is likened to a river, endlessly flowing, carrying moments into the past where they fade like mist. And in many aspects of life this is true. The intensity of certain experiences weakens with distance. The faces of people we once knew grow dim in memory. Passions that once consumed us turn into faint echoes. Yet there are bonds that refuse to bow to time's erosion. They stand like mountains amid the flowing current, untouched and unshaken, preserved in the very essence of the soul. It is an extraordinary thing to discover that a connection can remain intact, even after years of silence or separation. You may not have seen someone in decades, yet when you meet again, it feels as though no gap has existed at all. The conversation begins where it left off, the laughter carries the same rhythm, the understanding requires no explanation. Such meetings are not mere nostalgia. They are proof of something far deeper. They reveal that certain bonds are not bound by the ticking of the clock, but belong to a timeless dimension of energy. What is essential does not wither, for it was never constructed by circumstance, but rooted in essence. Think of two childhood friends who were pulled apart by circumstance. Perhaps one family moved away. Perhaps life's duties carried them into different worlds. They grew into adults, built families, lived through decades of experiences, and yet, when they encountered one another again in their 50s, they discovered that the core of their bond was preserved as though sealed in amber. Within minutes, they were laughing with the same cadence they had as children, recalling memories with an intimacy that did not require explanation. The years had reshaped their faces, filled their hair with gray, lined their skin with time, yet beneath the surface, the connection was untouched. That bond was not made fragile by separation, because it was never dependent on proximity in the first place. It was built upon something essential, something beyond the erosion of years. This phenomenon is more common than we often admit. How many of us have met an old friend after long absence, and felt this same shock of recognition. It is as though some part of our souls has been carrying the bond all along, keeping it alive in silence, waiting patiently for the right moment of reunion. The human psyche remembers in ways the conscious mind cannot. The rational part of us expects time to weaken everything, to scatter connections like leaves in the wind. Yet, when two energies are truly connected, they are not measured in hours or years, but in essence, and essence is not something that time can corrupt. What makes these connections so resilient is that they are not grounded in external circumstances. Many relationships depend on daily contact, constant reinforcement, and shared routines. When those routines collapse, the bond weakens, but the connections that endure across time are built upon something purer, recognition. They are born from the deep sense that this person is part of me, and I am part of them. Once recognized, this truth does not fade because it is not dependent on the changing conditions of life. It exists in the deeper strata of the psyche, where the passage of years has little influence. In love, too, we find the same mystery. There are those who meet again after long separation, perhaps after decades of different lives, marriages, or careers, and discover that the spark remains alive. The world may have told them that time heals, that time erases, but the flame still glows with a steady intensity. It is not that they are unchanged. Life has certainly altered them, but the bond itself was built not upon fleeting attraction, but upon something indestructible, a resonance of souls that survives the passage of years. It is as though the bond had been waiting quietly, untouched by the world's changes, ready to awaken when the moment of reunion arrived. This challenges the way we typically think of time. We are accustomed to viewing it as an unrelenting master, dictating beginnings and endings, determining the growth and decay of all things. Yet when we witness such connections, we realize that time is not absolute in its power. There are realities that exist outside of time, carried in the eternal aspect of the human spirit. The bonds that are truly essential live in that eternal space, untouched by the clocks and calendars that govern ordinary life. Consider how music works. A song may last only a few minutes, yet it imprints itself upon us in such a way that even decades later, a single note can bring back the full force of its beauty. The time between hearing it does not diminish its impact. It remains alive, stored in the essence of our being. Human connections work in much the same way. Once two souls have truly resonated, the imprint of that resonance endures, waiting only for the right conditions to be felt again. Time may pass, but the energy remains. There is a quiet beauty in this truth, because it reassures us that what is real is never lost. In the face of separation, we often feel despair, imagining that the years will erode the bond until nothing remains. Yet when the bond belongs to the realm of essence, no separation can undo it. The outer form may change, the circumstances may alter, but the inner reality remains untouched. This is why, even in grief, people often speak of feeling the presence of those they have lost. Though time moves forward and life continues, the energy of the bond lives on in a way that no clock can diminish. We are so often told that healing comes through forgetting, that distance softens what once was sharp, that time eventually dissolves the intensity of feeling. And yes, in many cases this is true, but there are moments when we discover that time does not erase but instead deepens. The bond becomes quieter, more subtle, but also more enduring. It ceases to demand attention in the daily sense, but it remains as an undercurrent, shaping who we are and how we move through the world. In this way, time does not destroy the bond, but refines it, revealing its permanence. This is why, when we encounter certain people again after long years, the recognition feels so powerful. It is not merely the revival of memory, but the reawakening of essence. Something within us knows that the bond never truly left. It was there all along, alive in silence, untouched by time's erosion. What is built upon essence does not fade, because essence itself belongs to the timeless. When two powerful energies collide, something far greater than mere connection takes place. It is not just the meeting of two lives, but the ignition of transformation within the depths of the soul. These moments strike us like lightning, sudden, undeniable, illuminating parts of ourselves that had long remained in darkness. They awaken courage where there was once only fear, clarity where confusion reigned, passion where apathy had dulled the spirit. The essence of such a collision is not that it simply brings another person into our lives, but that it awakens us to more of ourselves. It is as if their presence becomes a mirror, reflecting back to us dimensions we had forgotten or perhaps never dared to acknowledge. Many live for years without realizing how much of their own inner world lies dormant. We walk through routines, repeat familiar patterns, and confine ourselves within the walls of habit. Then suddenly, through the presence of another, the door swings open, and we glimpse the vastness of what has always been within us. This is why encounters of great magnitude often feel like destiny. They do not give us something foreign, but rather awaken something that was always there, waiting to be touched. The energy of the other collides with our own, and from this impact, sparks of transformation fly. Think of the way a profound love can awaken creativity. Someone enters your life, and through their presence, you feel compelled to express yourself in ways you never imagined. Perhaps you begin to write poetry, to paint, to speak words that had long been buried in silence. It is not merely that they inspired you in the casual sense, but that their energy unlocked a door within your being. Through them, you touched a part of yourself that had been asleep. Even if the love fades or distance intervenes, the creativity remains. The transformation has been set in motion, and it continues to shape your life long after the external bond has shifted. Or think of the teacher whose words redirect the entire course of a student's life. It may be a single lecture, a phrase spoken almost casually, that pierces through the fog of uncertainty and awakens a new vision. Countless lives have been altered by such encounters. Someone who had no confidence suddenly believes in themselves because a teacher said, "I see potential in you." The student may never meet that teacher again, but the spark has been lit. It burns quietly, guiding their choices, shaping their path, until decades later they still recall that single moment as a turning point. This is the power of collision. It imprints itself not only in memory, but in the very structure of the soul. The beauty of this transformation is that it does not depend on the permanence of the relationship. Many people fear separation, believing that distance or endings will undo the significance of what once was. Yet when a true collision has occurred, it leaves behind an indelible mark. The figure who entered your life may vanish from sight, but their impact remains alive within you, like a fire that continues to burn long after the spark has disappeared. This is why separation cannot diminish the bond, because its essence has already been woven into who you are. You carry it forward, sometimes unconsciously, in the choices you make, the courage you muster, and the wisdom you embody. This is why some people speak of others as their catalysts. They may not remain present for long, yet they set into motion a chain of transformation that unfolds across a lifetime. You may meet someone only once, but in that single meeting they awaken you to truths that alter the trajectory of your entire existence. Perhaps it is a stranger on a train whose words come at the exact moment you were ready to hear them. Perhaps it is a friend whose way of living shows you what freedom truly looks like. The collision itself may be brief, but its ripples move outward through time, shaping you in ways you only later come to understand. There is something profoundly humbling about this truth, for it reveals how interwoven our lives are. We are not isolated beings moving through the world untouched by others. Each meeting, each collision of energy carries the potential to shift us. We become who we are not only through our solitary journeys, but through the mirrors others hold up to us. And when two powerful energies collide, the transformation is undeniable. We are expanded, reshaped, sometimes broken open, and ultimately made more whole. It is important to recognize that transformation is not always comfortable. To awaken courage often means confronting fear. To find clarity may require the painful dissolution of illusions. To ignite passion can bring with it both ecstasy and the fire of longing. Collisions of energy stir the depths, shaking loose the structures we once clung to. Yet even in the difficulty there is a profound gift, for in being unsettled we are forced to grow. The greatest transformations rarely occur in comfort. They come in the form of disruptions that demand we step beyond what we thought we knew. Even when the one who awakened us departs, the essence of what they revealed continues to work within. A love may end, but the creativity it sparked becomes the lifeblood of our art. A mentor may pass away, but the vision they instilled continues to guide our choices. A friend may drift into silence, but the courage they once encouraged now lives as our own strength. This is why the collision is more important than the permanence of the relationship. The bond transcends presence because it is not dependent on physical continuity, but on the inner fire that was ignited. When we reflect on our lives, we often find that the most transformative moments are tied to people who awakened us in this way. They may no longer walk beside us, but their presence lingers in our inner world. We remember them not with mere nostalgia, but with a deep awareness that who we are today is inseparable from the collision we once shared. This is the living fire of human connection, the energy that continues to shape us long after the physical encounter has ended. And perhaps this is the deeper meaning of such collisions. They are not accidents, nor are they simply moments of connection. They are awakenings orchestrated by something larger than ourselves. They reveal that our lives are not random, but part of a greater unfolding, where encounters arrive when we are ready to be transformed. They remind us that the people who enter our lives are not merely companions, but often catalysts, guides, and mirrors, sent to awaken us to the depths of who we are meant to become. When two energies collide, it is never simply a private matter between two individuals. It is not only a bond of affection, understanding, or resonance. Something much deeper takes place, for such a meeting becomes a reflection of the greater whole. It reveals that behind the apparent separateness of life lies an unseen unity, a vast network of forces in which every true encounter carries meaning. We live most of our days under the impression that we are solitary beings, navigating randomly through a chaotic world. Yet when we experience a bond of profound depth, it shatters this illusion. We realize that such meetings are not accidents but revelations, moments in which the veil lifts and we are reminded that we belong to a cosmic dance where every step is connected to the rhythm of something larger. This is why such bonds feel sacred. They carry the weight of mystery, as though something beyond the ordinary is speaking through them. When you find yourself drawn to another in an inexplicable way, when you feel as though you have known someone for longer than time allows, you are not simply experiencing attraction or familiarity. You are touching a truth about the interconnectedness of all life. That sense of recognition is not born merely of shared experiences or common interests, but of a deeper resonance that hints at unity itself. The love, the friendship, the sudden knowing you feel is not just between me and you. It is a glimpse into the invisible web that binds all things. Consider how often in life we feel as though people arrive at just the right moment. A stranger extends kindness when we are at our lowest. A friend appears with wisdom exactly when we most need guidance. A chance encounter introduces us to someone who later becomes essential in our growth. When viewed through the narrow lens of logic, we may call these coincidences, but when we allow ourselves to see with deeper eyes, we realize these encounters are woven into the fabric of meaning itself. They are not interruptions in the flow of life. They are the very flow. Think of the way ancient cultures understood the world. They did not see themselves as isolated individuals, but as threads in a living tapestry of existence. The Greeks spoke of fate as three sisters weaving human lives into a single pattern. Indigenous traditions around the world spoke of the great web, or the circle of life. These metaphors were not poetic inventions alone. They were ways of expressing an insight into the unity that bonds all things. When we feel a deep connection to another, it is as if we glimpse this tapestry for a moment, recognizing that our meeting is not random, but part of a greater design. In modern times, science, too, has begun to echo this ancient wisdom. The discovery of ecosystems reveals that no organism lives in isolation, but all exist in interdependence. Physics shows us that matter is not composed of solid, separate blocks, but of particles in constant relationship, bound together by forces we cannot see. Even the human body itself is not a solitary entity, but a living community of cells, bacteria, and systems interwoven in perfect coordination. At every level, the truth repeats itself. Separateness is an illusion. Connection is the law of existence. When two energies collide and form a bond that feels eternal, what we are really witnessing is this greater law made visible in human form. It is as though the cosmos whispers through our relationships, reminding us that every genuine encounter holds purpose. This is why such bonds often awaken in us a sense of awe. We do not merely say, "I like this person." We say, "I feel as though I was meant to meet them." The resonance is too precise, the timing too perfect, the impact too profound to dismiss as chance, and in these moments, something within us expands. We begin to see life not as a series of accidents, but as a meaningful unfolding. We realize that every connection, even those brief and passing, participates in shaping us. The colleague who utters a single phrase that shifts our perspective, the friend who challenges us to grow, the stranger whose kindness restores our faith. These are not random interactions, but reflections of the greater whole in which we are embedded. Each one is a reminder that we are participants in a living network far greater than ourselves. It is easy in the rush of daily life to forget this. We become consumed by routines, by worries, by the illusion of control. We believe that only what we plan and execute has meaning, yet the bonds that shake us awake, the ones that arrive unplanned and yet feel essential, remind us that we are not the sole authors of our story. We are co-authors with the universe, our lives intersecting with others in ways that no logic can fully explain. When you embrace this truth, you begin to see every encounter as carrying potential significance. You begin to live not with suspicion of the unexpected, but with reverence for it. Perhaps this is why we hold certain relationships as sacred even when they defy explanation. The sense of having known someone before, the inexplicable feeling of connection, the recognition that cannot be reduced to shared interests. All these point to the larger reality that life itself is relational at its core. To honor these bonds is to honor the greater whole of which they are expressions. And so, when you experience a connection that feels unshakable, know that it is more than personal affection. It is a window into the unity of existence itself. It is a reminder that no soul walks this earth in isolation, that we are threads woven into the same fabric, each encounter a reflection of a larger design. To treat such bonds lightly is to miss their gift. To honor them is to live in alignment with the truth that we are not separate fragments drifting alone, but participants in a cosmic dance where every step, every meeting, every collision reveals the deeper unity of life. So when two energies collide, they do not vanish when separated, nor fade with the ticking of the clock. They remain alive, luminous, and transformative. They remind us that what is real cannot be quenched by distance, nor diminished by time. Such encounters are life's way of whispering that we are seen, we are known, and we are part of something far greater than ourselves.